afternoon and welcome to the program Transforming Lives One at a Time. Well, it's a gorgeous sunny day in beautiful Tobago in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to another program. On this program, we highlight persons and, of course, groups that have been making significant contributions to the growth and development of others. Well, on today's program, we will be highlighting Bishop's High School in Tobago and what some past students have been doing as it relates to giving back. My guest today is Mr. Alexis Braffett, and he's a former student of Bishop's High School in Tobago and a part of the graduating class of 1983 who now call themselves the 83ers. Also, Mr. Braffett is now creating the next phase of his life, having retired from the Trinidad and Tobago Civil Aviation Authority after 33 years of aviation. From air traffic controller to the man responsible for the Air Traffic Services Department, which included the control towers at the A&R Robinson International Airport and the Piarco International Airports, as well as the Piarco Area Control Center. I tell you, wow. Welcome to the program, sir, Mr. Yes. Braffett, and to beautiful Tobago. First of all, let me say thank you for your long and outstanding service.
Thank you, Dianne. Nice to be here.
Yes. Well, I know you are in Tobago for a few days, and have you been to the beaches, checked out the sites, and of course, a little birdie kind of gave me a hint that you like the photography thing. Yes. So have you been taking any pictures?
Yes. I actually was able to visit two birding sites.
Oh.
CP's in Hope and in Bloody Bay as well as taking out hiking there.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, let me also take the opportunity to say hi to all the 83ers all over the world, in Canada, the United States, Barbados, Trinidad, and of course Tobago. Hello from your homeland, Tobago. I know you are all locked on today. Well, Mr. Braffett, there is a quote that says, "There could be no definition of a successful life that does not include service to others." And of course, the conversation is about giving back today. So tell us about the 83ers from Bishop's High School in Tobago and how this initiative started and what was the motivation behind it.
Okay, thank you. It's really good to speak about this. We have found that, articulating this actually helps us to continue to do, the job that we have been doing. So first of all, we have a group that's just together as a group, and then there are the things that we do. So the group, the inspiration behind the group is Dianne Mcletchie Campbell, and since 2018, we have had this WhatsApp, which just started as a WhatsApp chat, but has evolved into what I call a community.
Wow.
So it's very active, 24/7. We are going, and this group, coming together, we have been able to, rekindle friendship, fix, broken friendships that might have happened over the years, and actually create new friendships, because we have found that. Though we had a very active group at school, we didn't necessarily all interact with one another. So we are now actually making strong friendships with people that we had not necessarily been friends with in school.
Okay.
And I think coming together has helped us to do more and be more than we would have been on our own. And I think that's the really strong output of the group.
Right. Well, a little birdie gave me a hint about an ongoing knowledge share your group has embarked upon. Mm-hmm. Tell us about it and some of the areas that you would cover from time to time, and of course, what has the impact been like?
Yes. So like I said, we started as a WhatsApp chat, just going very, very strong, talking about a lot of different topics. But what has happened is that there's now a lot of structure in the group. So rather than simply the ad hoc chats, there's structure in terms of specific times when we do have particular topics that we'd speak about.
Okay.
So one of the things we call knowledge share.
Yes.
And that's set aside Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m.
Right.
And a topic would be selected. So we started within the group. So we tapped into the expertise within the group, and someone would put on a presentation. So we'd have presentations So if they are doctors, we had medical issues. So we spoke
Okay.
about, you know, diabetes, we had eye health. We had persons talking about pensions, fire safety,
Wow.
things that will not only impact the group, but even your families, because as you
Yes.
get that information, we have been able to reach outside the group. So if someone highlighted a topic and the expertise was not within the group,
Right.
we were then able to tap into other
Okay.
BHS groups who had that expertise. So we had someone, Mr. Trevor Baines, coming in and talking about marriage counseling.
Right.
People talking about mental health. We even had a topic on, and then we reached out to people outside BHS. So one really fantastic one we had was on domestic violence. You know, someone coming in, so, you know, talking through what those issues were,
Yes.
what resources were available in Tobago that people could tap into. So it has been, you know, really fantastic in that way. So that's one structure where with the knowledge here. And just in preparing for the chat, you know, I counted that we have had like maybe about 45 of those sessions
Really?
since we have had
Wow. That's amazing.
this group going, yeah. And so, you know, so yeah, so being able to tap in back into the experiences of the group, the expertise of the group, allowing persons in the group to share, and us learning about, you know, persons from the group, what they have been involved in, how we could help and how they have been helping us. So yeah, so that has been really, really fantastic.
That is really commendable because as you go through life, as you traverse through life, there are so many different issues, and sometimes when you think you have all the information, there are so many other areas that we haven't tapped into.
Exactly. Yeah.
So many resources, because even as you spoke about some of the classmates not even interacting because I actually had that. Because I know many times, you know, persons, there would be a big class, maybe 30 or 40 students, and sometimes you might have 2 or 3 close friends.
Yes.
And you never really had no kind of major interaction.
Yeah.
But it's really wonderful to see that after all these years you could come together and not only just come together to get to know each other, but you can be able to impact other lives.
Yes.
So that is definitely very commendable. Well, let's talk about the mentorship program that the 83ers would have started and the objectives of this program.
Right. So again, going back, so we talk about the group. I think, you know, when we just started chatting again, you know, persons in the group mentioned, you know, that, okay, this is a special group.
Yes.
And I remember thinking, well, you know, all of us think we are special, but is that the case? But when we think about this mentorship, so I said, just to recap a bit, you know, the chat was started in 2018. And so immediately after that was the talk of a reunion.
Okay.
So we had a reunion scheduled for 2019, which I believe was the 3rd or 4th reunion that the group had had. And as a standard practice at these reunions, if we had funds left over, resources, something would be donated to the school.
Okay.
So we spoke about that. What do we want to donate? We tapped into those persons who were closer to the schools. People mentioned maybe we can provide fans to the school, because a lot of the classrooms did not have fans. Children were complaining about the heat and how uncomfortable it was. So that was the idea, which then morphed into, can we do something more?
Okay.
Right? But we can take this back as well. So there's a thread going all the way back. And that's when we talk about this group maybe being a little bit special.
Right.
So in 1983, during the time at Bishop's, we used to have 2 events, fairs, in December and July.
Okay.
So of course, when we were graduating in 1983, for us it was, okay, maybe the first big, you know, event you have as graduates, and everyone was looking forward to that. And then it was canceled.
Oh.
And so we were talking about that, and, you know, just like that, it came together. We decided we would put on our own function. Now, remember, we are 16-year-olds thinking that we're gonna and we put on a function. It was a party with a disco competition. I don't know if you remember Rennie B, the DJ.
Oh, yes,
Rennie
yes,
B.
I remember that.
We got Rennie B to come
B.
to DJ.
Wow.
Our function. And we raised, and we decided we would donate the money raised. And we raised, this is 1983, $17,000.
Really?
Yes, in 1983, which we then donated back to the school. And I think when we started chatting, we thought about, well, okay, what happened, you know, to that funds? You know, what, you know? And so we're thinking now as older persons, we thought, well, if we knew better then, maybe we could have invested that into something more long-term rather than a one-off event.
Yes.
So that was the thought. And so when, after the reunion, we visited bishops, told them we wanted to donate to the funds. But whilst we were there, the principal provided a small token, which was related to the class of 2023, and it spoke about legacy. Right. And we realized that that class actually mirrored our class, so that when we would be doing our 40th anniversary, they would be graduating. So we said, if we can adopt this class and take it all the way to graduation and beyond, right? So the first initial, at least to graduation. Right. And so that was the idea. So we adopted a class and said we would support this class in whatever way we can. And so that was the start of this program. So linking all the way back to 1983.
Yes.
To then.
Yes, I remember that name, Rennie Bishop, right?
Yes.
I mean, when you hear that voice, that deep voice, exactly. It's like Rennie B. Well, I want to stay in that vein of mentorship and possibly marrying that with proper role models as we aim to give our young people the best chance to succeed. Just weighing up in that. Right.
So the first thing was just simply the idea. We're going to do this. We have no idea how this is going to pan out, but we've made the commitment we are going to support. So one, we wanted to work with the school.
Right.
And then, so whatever we did had to be in conjunction with the school. What do you need? What do the parents need? What do the children need? And then the idea is that we wanted to provide our experiences. And I remember the first time we had a chat with the students, one of the things we said to them was, we all had dreams, but having come back together, we realized that not many of us were in the professions that we thought we would have been. We felt, we were successful, we were happy.
Yes.
But what we thought was going to happen,
it didn't play out like that.
Didn't happen. So this is one of the things we wanted to highlight, to the students. And I remember someone speaking to them and also saying to them, enjoy your time now, right? So yes, you're thinking forward, you want to grow up, but really enjoy this time now, which of course linked back to our group. The idea we were now coming together. One of the big things that came out of the group was learning about things in school that you didn't even know happened, right? As you start talking.
Yes.
With person. So really, that happened because everyone, we are children, we are in your own world and your world is the world.
Of course.
And now you were learning, this happened. This is what so-and-so was going through at that time. And really seeing people in, different perspectives.
Yes.
From then and even to now. So, so providing that support to the students, learning what support would look like.
Right.
So the school immediately embraced it. And I remember whilst we were still trying to get the funds and didn't actually have the contact, the school reached out to us and said, we're having a class dinner and we'd like to invite you to come along.
Right.
So we said, okay, sure. But then we thought, is this class dinner one where people might not be able to attend because, they couldn't afford it. So we said, okay, is there anyone, let us know. Right. Because we want to make sure everyone will help. People in the class were very willing to assist. So we were able to assist people coming. And so that started to link what are the things we can do and to start putting those things in place.
Right. As it relates to the role models, because it's no secret that we have a crisis going on now. And even later on, I had planned to speak about this, but as we're talking about role models, how critical is it, especially in the times that we live in with the advent of social media, and we have so many of our young persons going astray, even in the school system, because we are dealing with violence, we are dealing with disrespectful behaviors by our teenagers, we're dealing with bullying, we are dealing, of course, with substance abuse, so many. I mean, we have a lot of positive things coming out, but we also cannot be naive that we don't have these areas that we have to focus on. So let's talk a little bit about role models and how critical it is.
So I think, that's a big question, and I'm not going to pretend to have an answer to it. What I could say, I like the idea of role models, but I think it's important for us to try to see things from the children's point of view, the student's point of view. So I'm glad you mentioned the idea of positive and negative, right? Because my sort of perspective is that, especially when it comes to the news, we highlight a lot of the negatives, right?
All the time.
That is what's important, right? And so whether it's school or even in the workplace, right, coming back out like as a manager at work and having to deal with stuff, we focus a lot, okay, we don't want this particular behavior, and we tend to be lamenting the behavior. I think it's important that we highlight, really understand what this behavior is. If it's negative, we decide that we're going to deal with it, zero tolerance, strictly. But then on top of that, you need to then reinforce the positives, right? Because we highlight the negatives, but we never highlight the positive behavior. Right, exactly. So you need to because even when you extinguish the bad behavior, you have to replace it with something.
Of course.
So highlight the positive. So one of the things we had hoped to do with our mentorship was to actually do that part. Highlight, create like, let's say, what we call a good citizenship award. Now, COVID, both good and bad. COVID really disrupted, because at the start of this mentorship, then COVID happened.
Right.
It gave us a lot of opportunities that we did actually tap into, but it prevented a lot of the interactions that we were hoping to have initially. So one of the things was actually to provide that idea of what we consider to be a good student citizen and highlight that. So in the end, we did, actually provide awards for those things. But the ongoing stuff that we had hoped to do, was not as much because of COVID.
Yes.
But to answer your question, I think that's the idea. Let's highlight what are the positive things that we want to deal with, reinforce those things.
Of course.
And then where we see bad behavior, really try to zone in exactly what is that behavior, why, and then seek to address it. I think one of the things is that we have to be consistent and persistent. We tend to think, okay, well, I've already spoken about that. But again, especially if we're dealing with children, you just need to be patient, reinforce, communicate. I like the term that they use in sports, which over-communicate. So they will say stuff over and over again,
until you get it.
Exactly. Which is not something most of us have patience for, either to do it or to hear it.
True, truly.
But I think that's a key aspect of what we need to do.
Very well. Well, at this time, we're going to take a short break, and we will be right back. We are speaking to Mr. Alexis Braffett, and he's from the 83ers of the Bishop's High School, Tobago. Stay with us.
If you're wondering where to find top-tier quality tiles and products to refurbish or renovate your wall, floor, or pool, well, your worry is over. Come to D-Cells Tile and Ceiling Center, Torbay Local Road, opposite the Bonnecourt Primary School, Tobago, where you will find porcelain, mosaic, and ceramic tiles of the highest quality guaranteed. D-Cells Tile and Ceiling Center also stocks thinset, grout, tile cutters, and yes, windows. Plus, a friendly smile and service that's second to none awaits you. So forget the hassle and get all the quality tiles you need right here in Tobago at D-Cells Tile and Ceiling Center. Call us today at 460-8802, 639-8281. Opens Monday to Saturday from 9 a.m.
Hi, I am Dianne, host of Transforming Lives One at a Time, and I would like to introduce you to our brand new segment, Good Vibes, Good News. And this is where you have the opportunity to highlight your good vibes, good news with us. You could send your 90-second video to our WhatsApp number, 1-868-701-2099. That's 1-868-701-2099. Let's hear some of the good news that we never hear about. Good vibes, good news, inspiring hope, celebrating wins, truly grateful.
NSL School and Office Supplies for all your school uniforms, textbooks, stationery, and craft supplies. Located obliquely opposite Stumpy's Bypass, Canaan. Also offering printing, photocopying, and much more. Give them a call today, 615-6595-477-5905, or email them at nslbookstore@gmail.com.
Welcome back to the program, Transforming Lives One at a Time. Today we're talking to one of the 83ers of the Bishop's High School in Tobago, and we were just during the break, we were just talking a little bit about, actually I was wondering what it was like in school back in 83 and well, 83, 82, 81, that kind of thing. Tell us, that was in Mr. Sosa's time.
Yes.
I always remembered my sister, Sandra, talking about Mr. Sosa and that kind of thing. Just share with us just a little of what you remembered. Yeah. What was the kind of games you all used to play and that kind of thing?
Well, you mentioned 1983. And you're saying that is far back, but then remember 1983 is our graduation year. So we're really talking 1978. Okay,
so 5 years before.
Yes, is when we would have come into school. And of course at that time, you know, the big thing was sports.
Okay.
So, you know, for the boys, you know, we played cricket and at that time, interestingly, you had cricket season and then football season. You know, so, or I should say the other way around, starting the year at school, you know, in the wet season, you know. Was a lot of football and then cricket. And so if you're talking about playing, of course, we had, you know, games, especially as you started. So we would have athletics. So you mentioned Mr. Sosa, but one of the persons I remember strongly from that time was Mrs. James, teacher who was really the one into sports.
Oh, okay.
And so we had, you know, a lot of very, very good, you know, athletes, you know, at that time. You mentioned Mr. Sosa, and I think no one forgets Mr. Sosa.
Right.
That's the thing. I mean, once we started chatting, everyone, you know, remembered Mr. Sosa. And you mentioned, you know, and this is really a good person to highlight as you spoke about, you know, bullying and that type of stuff, because Mr. Sosa was known to be very strict.
Okay.
But why do we remember Mr. Sosa? He was a very kind and everyone respected him. So you remembered him after. So I think he's a really good role model for someone who can be strict about what is necessary. Yes. He would, you know, take you aside and ensure, okay, this is the way. He was the person who was responsible for the cadets. I was not in cadets, but you could start by and, you know, and so anyone, I think you go back there, talk about that, would very much respect him. And I think also, so I mentioned Mr. Sosa because he stood out, but I think everyone had a teacher that, you know, was this person that you looked up to. So even when we came to the chat as well, as I said, learning about things, you heard persons talking about teachers that you were not aware of. And if I could be personal a little bit, for instance, my mother was a teacher at the school. So of course I just looked at her as my mother.
Mommy.
But then I'm hearing on the chat and all these girls talking about her and, you know, the respect that they had for her and how she helped them. So that was a revelation for me on the chat as well.
And there is something significant about your teachers. It's like these people who, okay, you leave your parents' home on a daily basis and you come, and it's like these are your new parents.
Yes, yes.
They are there to guide you. Because for me, especially I attended Bonaccord Primary School. For me, at the Bonaccord Primary School, it was Mrs. Leslie, Pamela Leslie. And I mean, all the years you maintain that kind of love and respect. And it's like, you just can't stop talking about our teachers. And I think we have to find ways that we could be able to show some more appreciation to our teachers. They guided us in the direction. There are many teachers you will say, oh, that was my favorite teacher. You know, so I think it's very important to say thanks.
Yes, yes, and there are many ways of doing that, and I suppose it depends on how, you know, your own perspective.
Yes.
So as you mentioned that, I remember when I left school, you know, I just actually, you know, gone into university, and I was reflecting back on that, and I actually wrote a letter back to the principal at the school, saying how much you know, I appreciated being at the school. And I just highlight that to say that it really stayed with me, and then of course coming back with the chat, you realize, well, you're not alone. So there was something, you know, special about that time and those particular teachers.
Definitely. Well, that was just, we just took a little coffee break there. Let's talk a bit more about some of the areas the group has been able to make. I mean, you're already making such an impact. And of course, I know that the principal of the Bishop's High School, Ms. Ramnarayan, she has spoken highly about this recently formed partnership with the 83ers. She was actually supposed to be a guest on the program. She was not able to make it, but she did send something of which I'm going to read. All right, so talking about the kind of impact the 83ers are having on the development as it relates to the continued development of the school. And I'm going to read. As principal of Bishop's High School, I have witnessed firsthand the profound impact the class of 1983 has had on our students through their mentorship of the class of 2023. From Form 2 straight through to graduation, they walked with our students, providing not just resources, but presence, encouragement, and consistent care. Their support during the COVID-19 pandemic, their investment in learning tools, and their connection with families made a real difference. The result? A 93.8% CSEC full certificate pass rate, and a group of students who felt seen, valued, and uplifted. Their commitment didn't end there. They now mentor our class of 2028 and remain close to the heart of the school. I encourage other year groups to follow their example. Mentorship isn't just a gift to the student, it's a lasting legacy of what it means to be a true Bishopian. And of course, this is from the principal of Bishop's High School, Tobago, Miss Ramnarine. She couldn't be here, but she did send this. So thank you so much, Miss Ramnarine, and I know that you would continue to work with the 83ers. Well, Mr. Buffett, I know that many of the 83ers no longer reside in Tobago. Yeah. So when you have projects, do you have other persons here to assist, to oversee? For example, when you had the fans installed, yes. Tell us about your collaborations.
Right. So yes. So you started by listing all the countries in which people reside,
right? Which is
a reality of Trinidad and in particular Tobago. So when we look at the class. There's fewer than half, maybe a third of the class still residing in Tobago.
Okay.
And if they're not residing in Trinidad, they are abroad. So again, that's one of the benefits of social media and things that yes. we can be together and form this community, even though we are all, parts of the world. So yes, depending on what we have to do, we do have persons, in terms of all of the things that we have been doing in Tobago to tap into those resources. So there are times when, at short notice,
yes.
Something may come up with regard to the school. We ask someone, can you, go to the school,
right.
visit, do the presentation.
Okay.
So our Tobago-based people have been, really good at that. This morning, as I was coming up for this interview, of course, I used the opportunity to reach out to the school. So actually, just before here, I had a very good meeting with the year dean of the class of 2028, which is the second group that we have adopted.
Right.
So we were talking through, how we can plan and structure
yes.
This ongoing collaboration. So we have done, I think, a very good job in dealing with this on an ad hoc basis. As I said, we commit and then we see what happens.
Right.
But going forward, I think it's going to be, much better once we can put sort of more structure in place.
Yes.
And one of the things that the principal, Mrs. Ramnarine, was, she really loves this program and has been pushing out it.
Yes.
And so she has been successful in getting another year group, class of 1979,
wow.
to adopt class of 2029.
Right.
So that is the current first formers in BHS.
Wonderful.
And so the idea is to just keep building on that and having year groups adopt as others. And I think if this becomes a part of the structure
yes.
of Bishop's High School, then it will just be able to go to the next level.
So we're actually seeing a ripple effect.
Yes.
So
yes.
I do know that there are other groups, I'm sure, that would be doing things, contributing, but we also have to see the importance of trendsetters.
Yes.
Setting the trend so others can now emulate, so
yes.
others can follow.
Yes.
I want to talk about some of the, sometimes you hear of things like these hardly. The success stories of the students' lives that you would have impacted. Mm-hmm. You don't have to go into too much details, but just let us know how, in terms of when you hear the responses from the students of like the class that you would have adopted, yeah. how do they appreciate you?
So as I said, so there have been many different responses. COVID was like I said, an opportunity as well as a sort of, you know, distraction from what we wanted to do. But as we reached out to people, we say, okay, how can we help? And now I must say that the key here is the 83ers as a community. So a lot of what we were doing is what we were doing for ourselves,
right,
and then saying how we can expand this. You know, so during COVID, the idea was, you know, is there anyone in need that we can help among our group, which we did, and then we said, okay, let's extend this out to BHS. So, so the two significant things, well, actually three significant things we did during COVID. One was, we said, was there anyone in need? So we were able to, you know, get resources and donated like 18, you know, $500 hampers, you know, and this is where again, even you know, the school was really important because they had to identify, really do the work to identify who are those persons in need, and so on. Then one person had the idea, which was a fantastic idea at the time. You know, it's interesting that you know how life was, you know, seeming to be different then. You know, so everyone had to be wearing masks. Right, so we had the idea, you know, one of our members, you know, Cassie Thomas had the idea, let's provide masks for all the students in this in that year group.
Yes.
So that was done, we sourced it. That also gave an opportunity because I actually called every single parent during that time to say, well, okay, what's the size, you know, what size mask should it show? Because we wanted to make sure it was effective.
Of course.
And then in reaching out to them, we would get, okay, what was your need? And so remember at that time now people were then moving into homeschooling.
Yes.
Well, not saying homeschooling, but school from home, online schooling. And a lot of persons did not have devices. I mean, you know, people were going to school on the phone, which was difficult. So again, from that way where we were able to source, you know, we had one, you know, person in Canada who was then able to source refurbished, you know, tablets, which we then provided to about 6 students so that they could, you know, so they could, you know, benefit from that. So yeah, so those things, you know, we were able to help, and then by reaching out, people were able to say, oh, you know, that support you provided was really impactful. Now, jumping forward, when we got to graduation, right, was the first time which was also a reunion for us.
Yes.
So it was one of the first times we could really meet with those students. And we decided, okay, we did not have the opportunity before to really interact one-on-one with the students. So it was really important for us as part of our reunion activities that we had a direct meeting with the students. So we organized a breakfast where the students from the class could then interact with persons from 83ers, talk to them about careers and that type of stuff. And one person who I was actually personally mentoring myself, you know, so we had also one-on-one mentorship. And he mentioned, and a lot of others mentioned, that for the entire graduation week, the most important activity was that breakfast and interaction with class of 2023. I highlight that to reinforce what you're saying about the mentorship. So it's simply, we might think that mentorship is important, but of course, it's when the persons who are being mentored say, yes, no, this, you know, was important.
Of course.
And stuff. Yeah. So
and the kind of impact that it would have had on them.
Yes.
And might I say that these impacts are life-changing.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It can revolutionize a life.
Yeah.
Because just to see that you all would have taken time. I mean, you all have finished school, you have gone on, had your families, and you could have just turned your back and said, well, let them fend for themselves. Yeah. But you decided that, listen, I want to look, I want to see where can we help? What can we do to be able to bring that kind of impact, that level of like, somebody cares.
Yes.
Somebody cares. Because sometimes, even as parents could feel so overwhelmed with so many things they are dealing with their children on a daily basis. And just to know that there's a group that is helping in some way, giving whatever kind of support. So that is definitely commendable. So what is next on the cards for the 83ers as it relates to your partnership with your alma mater? Yeah,
so continuing to build on this, right? I mentioned before structure. So so once we did the 23ers, so you mentioned, okay, what's the idea of this? So one of the ideas was, okay, we're going to support graduation. But we also wanted, one of the objectives was for the students to understand that there was this community supporting them, not now, but later on, because as you say, you may say stuff to someone, they might not fully realize the impact of it. And we wanted them to know, look, if 10 years down the road you realize the impact of this, you need help, you can reach back to the group.
Yes.
We, of course, would love that they themselves, having gotten benefit of this support, would then pass it on.
Yes.
And then once it hit, that graduation, we decided, as they say, to run it back. So we said, okay, we're going to take a next group and hope to build on what we have learned from the previous group to make this group, second group, even better. Hoping that, other groups will following us.
Yes.
And so this year, a big thing for BHS is the centennial celebration.
Oh yes,
yes, so 100.
I think you peeked into mine. Right. Yes.
So the school is celebrating 100 years,
100
which is
years.
Absolutely important.
Wow.
But personally for me and for our group, what we are hoping is that we also use this opportunity to tap into, well, what are we doing for the next 100 years?
Right.
How can we, build on that? So there's a lot of persons excited about coming in. This is the major part of the celebration is going to be in September. Okay. And so hopefully we can tap into those persons being there and really, use that platform to say, how can we make this even better? And pull persons in.
So what I'm hearing is that you're seeking ways to be more intentional about moving forward.
Yes.
Intentional about giving back to the school. Intentional about impacting more lives.
Yes.
Yes. Definitely. Well, many times we refer to giving back to our former school. When we refer to giving back to our former schools and stuff, many times we think automatically financial. Mm-hmm. And yes, there are financial needs, but I always say that we have so many other resources that we can use. Mm-hmm. Maybe you may be a police officer and you could come and offer some guidance in terms of how to probably resolve conflicts.
Yes.
And bring that to the attention of the principal and say, listen, I'm a police officer and I want to have a little session. Or I work in the division of health, I am a psychologist, and if there are any students that probably need that added level of support, I am available.
Yes.
Have a conversation with the principal, just weigh in on that.
Yes, so you mentioned the word intention before, and I've been using the word structure. And I think those are the two things that will give effect to what you're saying.
Yes.
This is what we have done. The money part is easy, and I say it's easy because it's you can directly assign, okay, I need $5,000 for this. And it's easy to then have an objective to raise that. The other one is a little more difficult because you have to do the sustaining thing. You don't actually necessarily see the impact right away. But again, going back to, like I said, what we do within the group, utilizing our own resources and then now putting this out there. So, for instance, the first time we were doing the fans, what we asked was, so we, you asked about, the support. So yes, we would have pulled people together some came from Trinidad. We set a day. We had those persons in Tobago. Of course, we have to find the expertise in terms of the installation of the fans. And we did more than one, so I'll just jump forward. This is another area where we were able to utilize other year groups because then we had expertise in other year groups. So, class of 2003 and 2005 came forward to help us to install the fans.
Wow.
But on the first time, what we did was we asked the year dean to identify some students who might be interested in electrical stuff, technical stuff. Okay. Can they come along, be with us when we were installing the fan? So you sort of start that mentorship where they could talk to the persons who were there. So we had some guys come forward and, that was lovely to see. They spend the day with us and they install the fan. So that's one sort of low-key way of doing that. We have been identifying, persons in the group with expertise. So let's say we're talking about career day. So the one, when you mentioned the parents, I will also mention the teachers, because one way of helping the students is to help the teachers and the parents, right? So you talk about being overwhelmed.
Of course.
Right, so this is where that structure is really important, because they need to let us know, hey, this is the areas in which we need help. when I started going to, to Bishop's.
You know what? Let's just stick a pin right there. I see my producer is giving me the eye.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to take a short break again. I know the conversation is going nice. But stay with us. We'll be right back.
If you're wondering where to find top-tier quality tiles and products to refurbish or renovate your wall, floor, or pool, well, your worry is over. Come to D-Cells Tile and Ceiling Center, Tobago Local Road, opposite the Bonnecourt Primary School, Tobago, where you will find porcelain, mosaic, and ceramic tiles of the highest quality guaranteed. D-Cells Tile and Ceiling Center also stocks thinset, grout, tile cutters, and yes, windows. Plus, a friendly smile and service that's second to none awaits you. So forget the hassle and get all the quality tiles you need right here in Tobago at D-Cells Tile and Ceiling Center. Call us today at 460-8802, 639-8281. Opens Monday to Saturday from 9 a.m.
Hi, I am Dianne, host of Transforming Lives One at a Time, and I would like to introduce you to our brand new segment, Good Vibes, Good News. And this is where you have the opportunity to highlight your good vibes, good news with us. You could send your 90-second video to our WhatsApp number 1-868-701-2099. That's 1-868-701-2099. Let's hear some of the good news that we never hear about. Good vibes, good news, inspiring hope, celebrating wins, truly grateful.
NSL School and Office Supplies for all your school uniforms, textbooks, stationery, and craft supplies. Located obliquely opposite Stumpy's Bypass, Canaan. Also offering printing, photocopying, and much more. Give them a call today, 615-6595-477-5905, or email them at nslbookstore@gmail.com.
Welcome back to the program, folks. Transforming Lives One at a Time. I'm still here with Mr. Alexis Braffett, and he's representing the 83ers. That's the Bishop's High School, Tobago, class of 1983, graduating class of 1983, but they have chosen to call themselves the 83ers. All right, so just before the break, we were talking about the teachers being involved, just as how the parents would need that kind of support. So just continue in that vein.
Yeah, so, you talked about how can we help beyond providing just, money and stuff. And I think if we're looking to support the students, one way, of course, is to support, the teachers and the parents. One of the, one of our classmates are doing is that she had offered coaching, let's say, which was, to the students, so one-on-one free coaching to the students in the class. But I also think that this is something that, teachers could use. When I looked, I was saying that one of the things that has continued to inspire me is that, going back to 2019 when I visited the school, and I would come in at different times, and whether it was the principal, an acting principal, or all teachers, one of the things that I always absolutely got was the dedication of the teachers to the students.
Yes.
That's, always talked about that. And when you look at the, a lot of the teachers would be overwhelmed, there's not enough time and enough resources, to do what they need to do. So if we can, provide that impact either by providing our expertise to help them, provide support, provide additional resources, or even take some of the burden off by doing other things, I think that is going to be absolutely crucial to what's provided.
Because my next question was how can past students create a stronger partnership, but I think you just answered that as we spoke, because we know that there are other groups within Bishop's High School that have been making an impact. And of course, we would like to encourage even other schools, former students, to look back, see exactly your schools, have a conversation with the principal, have a conversation with some of your other classmates. Sometimes it just takes two persons to start, you know.
Only takes two.
And you start, and then before you know it, it's a huge group.
Yes, that's
just like the 83ers. It started with one, and then that vision took off because everyone decided, yes, I like this vision and we can work towards something. So I really want to take the opportunity to encourage students, past students from all schools in Tobago and Trinidad. We can't leave out Trinidad, right? It's one nation, you know. Look and see where you can play a part. You might think it may be insignificant, but this might be just the area that the school needs the help at that point. So I really want to encourage you, you know, take a page from the 83ers and from the other groups that would have been contributing to the development of their former schools. Well, I must say that the 83ers are actually living out the concept of this program, which is transforming lives one at a time. As you transform a life, as you make an impact on a life, that one life can make an impact on many lives. And even as a community and as people, we have to be able to recognize that we all need each other. And wherever we can help, that we definitely need to do that. So I want to commend the 83ers, you know, for coming up with this initiative and realizing the importance of giving back to your schools, and you're actually doing it, you know. So I really want to congratulate you. Well, as we begin to wrap up the program, let me offer congratulations. Let's talk a little bit more about 100 years, you know. You know how much is 100 years, right?
Yes.
And Bishop's High School is celebrating 100 years. Congratulations to Bishop's High School, Tobago. 100 years as an institution, this is a big one. And of course, I know it promises to be grand. I understand that you have a lot of persons coming from all over the world to be a part of this huge, should I say magnanimous celebration. So just tell us, what is one key takeaway you would like to leave, and maybe another past student may be looking at the program today, and maybe it has been crossing their mind to do something. I wanted to speak to that person as well.
Yes, so, you know, I was listening to you know, when you're talking about, you know, the importance of all of this. And maybe we might think also, well, why doesn't it happen? So again, you know, maybe over-communicating a bit, I'll just keep mentioning that whole idea of structure, right?
Yes.
So let's see, if we look at abroad, and you look at, you know, what those schools do, that whole giving process is part of the institution. So it's twofold, right? So in this case, you know, we have the class of 1983, and then we have other classes that have started to do this. So I would say it now needs to, on the part of the school, you know, or either the school as the institution by itself, or maybe formally the alumni of the school, to say, okay, this is part of what we want to do, and use that process to bring persons in, provide the structure. Taking again an example of our group, as I said, the group and the community has allowed us to do way more.
Yes.
So people are there willing to assist. You put a structure in place, then, you know, it facilitates that assistance and that giving. So I think the key part is the structure. So for persons out there who might be willing, well then yes, it takes just one person to say, okay, I'm gonna be the key. I'm gonna put that structure in place. Persons have reached out to us about, you know, okay, well, what have you all done? So this is where, again, so what I thank you for this program, because it allows us to speak to a wider community.
Yes, of course.
Rather than one-on-one. The persistence and the commitment. Sometimes we joke when they call us and they say, well, what do you need? Or we say, well, first you need to get a Sandra.
Yeah.
You know, you need that one person who
Yes.
has the vision for the group and is committed to not letting the group die.
Right.
You know?
Yes.
Right? So once the group is living and surviving, then all the other stuff would flow around that. I think it's really important. We're dealing with people. You're always going to have frustrations with,
of course,
volunteer groups and that kind of stuff. So for me, focus on the positive, accentuate the positives, you know, and that will
Yes.
take care of any negative or frustrating stuff. Because it's sometimes we joke when we're trying to do this stuff and we said, oh, we didn't realize it was so hard to help. You know, you're willing to help, but it's hard.
Yes.
Because, you know, but you need to persist through whatever frustrations because you know, the impact.
Yes.
You know, so can I just talk a little bit about the principal mentioned the
Sure.
93% pass rate.
Yes.
Now, I just have to take a word for it that our is not something we were expecting or looking at, right?
Right.
But this was the highest for a long while in terms of this class. But it also highlighted another thing, and this is, you know, a little bigger. So you have a 93% pass rate, but the school is not able to cater for all the students who wanted to go into sixth form.
Okay.
So I said, well, that's interesting. So here we encouraging all of these people to do well, and then when they do
And
well,
they've
we say
done
we don't
well.
have any place for it. So for me, one of the things, again, I don't know what that takes. So this is where, you know, the greater bishops community coming together. So if we can
Right.
have an objective that says,
Yes.
we want 100% passes at O levels, but then we have to cater for 100%.
Exactly, and then
to go
to
on
A-levels.
to sixth form. Now, there are two parts of that. One of the things we had to recognize is A-levels was the objective for a lot of persons. But of course, in Trinidad, we do have a lot of different options at tertiary level.
Correct.
So having those available, that's one thing in terms of the planning.
Yes.
So when the class of 2028 started, I was invited to their orientation session. And what was really, really good about that was put forward by the year dean, was bringing all of these parents together.
Right.
And they were already talking about 2028. So it wasn't, oh, your children coming in, you know, in
Yes.
2023. We are taking them to 2028.
Of
Let's start
course.
planning. Because I think in Trinidad, we're not too good with planning.
Yes. We have to be more proactive.
Yes. So that part of it, really putting that plan in place and saying, oh, this is the vision down the road. So
Yes.
for me, an overall objective of seeing, you know, mentorship as part of the structure of BHS,
Right.
and that overall objective of saying, okay, what's the next, what does Bishop's High School look like in 5 years in terms
Yeah.
of ensuring we have all of this support.
Or
If students,
10.
if all these children want to get into sixth form, we have space for that.
Of
And of
course.
course, it wouldn't just be for Bishops, because it would be for other schools and other
Throughout
children in
Tobago.
Tobago who
Yes.
can then come to Trinidad. So that's one objective. A little
Yes.
high, but I
Of
see
course. No, we
that
have
we
to
can
think,
push towards.
we can't even just think 5,
Yeah.
but 10
No,
and
that's what's
15
going to
and
continue.
20.
Well,
Yeah,
yes,
of course.
you know, as we
Yes,
hit
so
it.
I think that proactive approach
Yeah.
is always better, because
Yeah.
you give yourself time and space
Yes.
to plan,
Yeah.
and you get to see the vision way down.
Yeah.
You know, there is a saying, it takes a village to raise a child. And of course, we're talking about school, we're talking about young people. How important rather, do you think it is to have that kind of collaboration in, like, the persons at the small shops in the villages, you know, the community-based organizations, NGOs, everyone working together for the greater good, to see that one child succeed?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely important, and I think the having the communication, right? So I mean, you know, people talk about they like to talk about coming together and us being on the same page, right?
Yes.
But I think the value that we have as human beings is that we are different.
We are.
Everyone bringing
Yes.
a bit to the table. So then the question is, how can we embrace all of that, which is where the communication comes in. So we sort of have an idea of, how can I use your help? How can I use this other person's help? But towards that, you know, common goal. Everyone being able to contribute.
Yes.
It is something that we found within the group. So like I said, different persons would come up with ideas, because they know there's a structure to ensure that my ideas, you know, gets pushed forward. For instance, I don't want to make it seem that, you know, that the group agrees on everything. You know,
Right,
it's normal people. We have our differences, but what has been key is that we have been able to, address those. Persons are able to freely, frankly speak.
Right,
Their mind, respectfully. You know, we, respond to that. People are very free to push back. and we have that community going. So I think that's what you need.
Yes.
Not that you shut people down. You
right,
take everyone's idea. So I think within the community, how is that done? And valuing, as you said, all of those different entities.
Yes, definitely. And we even have that kind of challenge of kind of bridging the gap between the young, the not so young, and the seniors. And I've said it on this program time and time again, that we have to find a way that we can be able to bring us together. Because I was interviewing a senior citizen some time ago, and he was saying that his granddaughter, he got a phone. He couldn't understand one thing on the phone. But his granddaughter was able to help him and say, Grandpa, okay, this is what you need to do, course, and that kind of thing. Yes. So I have always been lobbying for that comprehensive approach, because I believe we all need each other.
Yes.
So the little ones, from the preschool to the primary school to the tertiary to high school, and the seniors, and then the not so seniors, in terms of fostering that kind of partnership so that we can all get the kind of result that we so need.
Yeah, I think so. Linking back to that same thing I said about all the differences that people have. So one key area is facilitating like-minded people within those differences to come together.
Right.
What's the connection that we have so that we can focus on this? So, and so that's where the persistent comes in. That you don't give up, you just keep, this idea is good. We just need to do the work necessary to ensure that it's fulfilled.
Of course. Well, I think I'm thinking that we have some more time, Mr. Producer. All right, he just gave me the cue for the time that we have, which is not much. Mr. Braffett, I want to sincerely thank you for coming in today, representing the Bishop's High School graduating class of 1983. The 83ers. I want to thank you for the contributions that you have made to the development of your former school, and of course your continued partnering with the school. Even as a principal would have spoken so highly, and I know that she's going to be looking at this interview and I know that she's going to be expecting you to continue in that vein, even as we encourage other schools within the Tobago space, within the Trinidad and Tobago space, to step up a bit more. Let's do whatever is needed so that we can get the kind of result that we so need. So I also want to take the opportunity to encourage former students of all schools within the Tobago space, and of course Trinidad, to get together, get on board, as we all play our part in giving back to our former schools. Give the principal a call, as we said about 3 or 4 times on the program today. Have a discussion, have a meeting, share your expertise, adopt a class, or even start a mentorship program. Wherever you can contribute and make a difference, as Nike would usually say, just do it. I'm not a spokesperson for Nike. By the way, I'm your host, Dianne. Always a pleasure here with you. I want to give you an opportunity to shout out your 83ers. I know they won't forgive you if you don't do that.
Well, I think we did that, and enough of that, right? A lot of it. But being part of this group has been an inspiration for me personally, and I think for a lot of the members in the class. I love the way that we have come together to help one another, to learn from one another, and then to go out there and help others. I want to thank you for inviting us on the program.
Yes.
By helping us to articulate what we have been doing.
Yes.
Then we can go forward from there. It helps us to encourage others.
Yes.
And then I want to congratulate you on your program, because I think the very name of the program itself, speaks to what you're trying to do, and it's an important part in putting that message out there, helping and supporting persons who want to, provide that help back to the community.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. Thanks again for being here today. As usual, remember, You can check us out on our Facebook page. We are on TikTok, Instagram, and of course you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, Transforming Lives One at a Time. Again, I want to remind you that we have brought on a brand new segment, Good News, Good Vibes. And this is where you have an opportunity to share a 90-second video of your good news, whatever good news. You probably just received a scholarship, you just had a baby boy, you just got a promotion, whatever, because many times we realize that we hear a lot of bad news being highlighted. And on this program, we want to provide a level of hope. So as you share your good news, others would be encouraged. As usual, I leave you with the definition of transformation, which is an internal shift that brings us into alignment with our fullest potential. Hey, we've got this. See you next time.